Hello and welcome to the Global Electronics Report. It's Friday, September 9th, and my name is Trevor Galbraith. Toxic chemicals in China, the latest from Semicon Taiwan, and what new technology will be the next big innovation area. So stay tuned and please, as always, feel free to comment below, even if it's on the recorded version. We want to hear your feedback. Electronics are an integral part of almost everything we do today. But manufacturing these electronics can sometimes expose workers and engineers to a dizzying array of pungent and toxic chemicals. Joining me today to discuss this problem is Pauline Overseem from SOMO. She's co-author of the report, The Poisonous Pearl, and she is also here to talk about the Good Electronics Network. Welcome, Pauline.
Hello, thank you very much for
inviting
me.
Pauline, the organisation Global Electronics Network has been at the forefront of a movement to persuade large contract manufacturers and EMS companies to adopt safe working practices and materials. Can you tell us a little bit about the Global Electronics Challenge and what are their goals?
Yes, I can do. The Good Electronics Network is a loose network of civil society organizations from across the globe, from electronics production countries like China, Thailand, the Philippines, Indonesia, India, developing countries, as well as research and campaign organizations and trade unions, labor rights groups from ICT consumer countries, including the US and the Netherlands. And this network is hosted by SOMO. SOMO is a Dutch research organization. SOMO has been researching the electronics sector for focuses on the manufacturing phase and labor rights, occupational health and safety. Yeah.
Okay. Now, your latest report, The Poisonous Pearl, relates to electronics factories along the Pearl Delta in China, where workers are exposed to toxic substances such as benzene and N-hexane. How bad's the problem?
Yeah, it's a very good question. We think the problem is very bad, but it's very difficult for us to know exactly because this information is not readily available. So what we do as SOMO, as a research organization, together with labor rights groups and research organizations based in production countries like the two Hong Kong-based groups that are the co-authors of this particular report, we sort of try to scrape the surface and investigate bit by bit factories and parts of the supply chain to get an understanding of the scale of this problem of chemical poisoning. And there's organizations, for example, also in South Korea looking at occupational health and safety at Samsung. And more we learn that a lot is going on, but to tell you exactly in hard figures how bad it is, that is just not possible. Also, and we consider that to be one of the main problems because factories and brands are not yet very transparent about this problem.
Right,
they don't know either.
Well, you wouldn't expect them to be, but so okay. Let's ask you then. What were the key findings of the study?
Now, the key findings are that there is a lot of people that fall ill, and they don't know about the risks they run working with chemicals or with substances they don't often recognize as hazardous. They are not informed, they are not trained, they are not aware of their rights, they don't know how to claim rights. Workers don't when they fall ill, they are dismissed or sent on unpaid sick leave. They are bullied. They don't get the right diagnosis. When they do get an occupational diagnosis, their employer may counter it, will not accept it, will fight it. They don't get compensation. They have huge medical bills, so they suffer physically, mentally, financially. Yeah, they are alone in a struggle, and their employers are not with them.
Hmm. Okay. Well, but I understand you surveyed 59 people by questionnaire and maybe a further 16 with an in-depth interview. So does that really seem like a large enough sampling to produce a significant trend analysis?
It's a good question. Definitely 75 people is still a small group, but these are all victims. So it's not it's a group taken from a much larger population of workers, and from a much bigger group of factories. And if we find people who are that ill with an occupational diagnosis from such a from tens of factories, then we find it a very important signal. And as I said, it's just impossible for us as research organizations with very little access to workers and factories or to the factory floor to really know what chemicals are used, what the processes are, who falls ill and how they are treated. So for us to get this tip of the iceberg, we feel is very worrying. And we think that 75 seriously ill people do form an important tip of the iceberg and an important signal to that requires further investigations, both by factories and brands.
Yeah,
And
of course,
civil
it's
society organizations.
important to point out that these people are all ill people, sick people that you interviewed, not just a general sampling of people.
Yes.
So is this problem specific to certain regions of the world? I mean, for example, in Europe, we have RoHS, WE, and REACH to help reduce workers and consumers' exposures to toxins. So is this really from the poorer areas or the low-cost countries that you're focusing on?
One of the things that is described in the report are the different standards with regard to exposure levels, exposure time and exposure levels of workers to hazardous chemicals. These standards are very different in the US and in Europe from China. To be quite same and quite bad in other developing ICT production countries as well. But we don't know exactly yet. We have bits and pieces of information, bits of pieces of alarming reports coming in also from the Philippines and Thailand. But this really requires further investigation. And I think as far as there is still ICT production in the US or in Europe, occupational health and safety will be much better taken care of. Yeah.
Okay, well, it looks like you've got a huge task on your hands, Pauline, and certainly wish you every success with it. And we'll certainly keep up and monitor the activities of the Global Electronics Network there. So I want to thank you for joining me today. The report, of course, the Perilous Peril, of course, you can get from the website. What's your website address? www.goodelectronics.org. And you can also find it on the SOMO website, is www.somo.nl. Great. Okay, thank you for joining us today.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting us.
Last week it was NEPCON Shenzhen. This week, the electronics industry is showing its wares in Taipei in Taiwan. Semicon Taiwan is arguably the most important semiconductor event in the world, and reporting for us from this was Keith Bryant. Keith told me that Toyu had launched a highly accurate piece of measuring equipment, and why Exelon was demonstrating their FF20 horizontal pure CT machine, which has a detector that produces pretty good semiconductor inspection results. But other than that, I think it's fair to say Keith was underimpressed with the number of innovations on the show floor.
I can't remember the last time I saw something really, really new and exciting in a show.
It's getting harder,
Yeah,
harder and harder to spot them, you know.
this show wasn't like that. I mean, I always liked Semicon Taiwan. You don't have the huge football pitch type stands that you have at Productronica. You know, it's on 2 floors. You can go around it, and it's really more about technology and technologists.
Right.
You know, the presentations that they have at their technical area are, you know, very much about new technologies. You know, can we thin dies any more than we thin them at the moment? How the hell do we put them on backing tape when they get so thin?
So it's more about process and process materials.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
You know, the big, you know, global material guys like Namix and Indium and the rest all had, you know, fairly significant stands, as did the people who were doing processing and cleaning of wafers. So, but obviously that kit is so big that you don't bring it to a show.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Going back to what you were talking about at the beginning of the clip, the accurate measuring system. I mean, accurate measurements are becoming increasingly important, especially with all this Industry 4.0 stuff and having to send corrective action further up the line. Accurate measuring systems with low vibration and this type of thing are becoming increasingly important.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think that's the reason for these machines being, I wouldn't say they were launched, but they had stickers on them saying they were new.
Okay. Well, that's a good step. Good. Okay. So the show obviously seemed healthy, well attended. I mean, because last week we reported on the show over in Shenzhen, which unfortunately seemed to be very quiet. No immediate signs of a pickup in business over in southern China. But how was the temperature in Taipei?
Well, I would say, it was a strong show, and again, it's only the first day. I mean, tomorrow is going to be busier, but it's not, you know, thousands and thousands of people flocking everywhere like the old days. We all have to acknowledge in our hearts we're not going to see that again. I went around and spoke to 5 or 6 people, including Mark Norris from Nordson, and you know, everybody that I spoke to was very happy with the numbers of people that they'd seen, but more so with the, you know, the quality of the leads.
Right. Okay. Good. Well, I guess that's all you can expect.
Yeah, you know, the people from the what they would describe as their major key customers were pretty much all there on the first day.
Right.
But obviously, you know, they're large organizations, so other people are going to be coming tomorrow. You know, and Mark was at NetCon China last week, and you know, his comparison was, yeah, that was an okay show, but you know, this one was actually much stronger for them. And you know, I have to say it's good to see the vice president of electronics getting out and going around the shows and meeting the distributors and meeting the people, because you know, Mark's new into that role, and he really seems to be grabbing hold of it with his normal gusto.
Good. That's good. That's good to hear. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, the Taiwanese contract manufacturers have a very big influence on the manufacturing in China itself. A lot of it's moved over there. Are they sort of still as keen on China, or are they, you know, redirecting that more into the Philippines and Vietnam and other areas now?
I think they're looking at other areas, but obviously they don't have the cost pressures that the SMTA guys have, you know, because you know, surface mount assembly is obviously a more labor intensive system than the sort of things that they're doing. Yeah. But I think they're looking to spread their wings, but more probably from a cost of the facility and those kind of things than, you know, worrying about labor costs in China. Yeah. I mean, my best description of it is probably to say it was quite a global show.
Mhm.
Walking around, I heard Koreans, I heard Chinese, Japanese, US guys, Germans, other Europeans.
Yeah.
It was a very, although it's a Taiwanese show, it seems to be almost like the semi show.
It's a very influential show. I think outside of Semicon West, and maybe even replacing Semicon West, I think Taiwan is the key Semicon show.
Yeah, I mean, it had a good level of exhibitors, and as I say, a very, very broad range of nationalities of visitors.
Great. Well, Keith, it's great to see you again, and we're going to see you in a couple of weeks, of course, in Chicago for the SMT AI. So I want to wish you safe travels, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you very much, Trevor. I'll see you there for a beer.
Okay. In merger news this week, Argentil, a wholly owned subsidiary of Microchem Corp, has purchased the assets of Conductive Compounds, Inc. of Hudson, New Hampshire. The new company will operate under the name of Applied Inc. Solutions and will relocate to Microchem's new 76,000 square foot state-of-the-art Westborough, Massachusetts facility later this year. Yamaha Motor Company announced that Yamaha Motor Europe GmbH has merged with Yamaha Motor Europe NV. Yamaha has its European headquarters, of course, in the Netherlands. Yamaha told Global Electronics Report that this was for financial and legal reorganization, matching the operations in other parts of the world. There will be no changes to existing sales or service operations. Smart audio looks set to become one of the latest emerging technologies, as evidenced by the removal of the jack socket from the recent iPhone 7 launch. Audio is likely to become much more directional, focusing on only the information you need or want to hear and blocking out much of the peripheral noise and distortion. Bone conduction systems such as that pioneered by Batband are likely to become a feature in the future, conducting sound to your inner ear and leaving your outer eardrum free to accept different signals or information. And there will, of course, be Bluetooth, but like the Lightning earbuds for the iPhone 7, it will still need batteries. With a single charge lasting only 5 hours, this will be yet another charger competing for a socket in your home. That's it for this week. Remember to like our page and switch on your live reminders. Check back with me next week for more stories from around the electronics world.